We're back at the Reebok Eurocamp in Treviso 2008. This is Jonathan Gavoni here. I'm here with Rob Meurs from the New Jersey Nets, international scout. How are you today, Rob?
I'm glad it's over. Like 4 days, it's a lot, but it was worth it.
How long have you been on the road for now? The last month, how much have you been traveling?
More than half of the time I'm on the road, and that's basically the whole year. It's like 6 months a year, I'm traveling 6 months, I hope to be home.
What are your thoughts on this year's camp? Was it, compared to years past?
Well, I've been, I think, in every camp, and so far they did a very good job to get the best group of players together. Not all of them played over here, but had some workouts. So I think this year was really a camp where, it was worth for NBA scouts and NBA personnel to be here and to see almost all of the better talents in Europe.
What do you look for individually in a camp like this? This is not the first time, obviously, you've seen these players play. What are some things that you key in on to make your evaluation better?
Well, I'm from Europe, so I see those guys a lot. I want to see if there's progression on the players. Sometimes you cannot see all the players because they play for a team, but they never get on the court, so you get a chance to see here. So that's one of the things. And I don't know if other scouts look at it that way, but I'm also looking for the guys who I think cannot play. It's probably maybe even more important than the players who can play.
Right.
Because everybody knows who the top talents are, and everybody knows in the draft who will be somewhere in the first round and the second round, but you want to make sure that you don't make a mistake.
So the Nets invest a few $1,000s in bringing you over here, but they could save a lot by saving, trips that you don't have to make next year because of this?
Well, I think that no, they don't look at saving the money on the trips. They look at saving the money on spending money on contracts on players, and they don't work out as a player who can serve your team. That's more important than anything else. That's why scouts are on the road.
Right.
It's not. I don't think anymore with the way the internet works, draft sites like yours, that there's not so many secrets anymore. It's not like you can find a hidden gem like 10 years ago when suddenly someone found Ginobili out of the blue.
Right.
And nobody drafted him, and San Antonio Spurs have an NBA All-Star. But I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
Right. You're from the Netherlands. There's not a lot of scouts from the Netherlands. Can you tell me about your background as a scout, how you got into this business?
Actually, Donnie Nelson got me into the business about 20 years ago, just by coincidence. I was the first one ever to start scouting NBA potential players, because before that was never done. It's just very coincidental. I was working for the federation, I was a coach, and then I worked for the Army as a physical trainer officer. So I had a lot of things going and was really into basketball and as coach and what I said for the federation. It was just for fun in the beginning, and then slowly you start to work it out. And I'm not only scouting for the Nets, but I have my own company now. More or less what you guys doing, but in a different way.
How has international scouting changed over the last few years since you started?
Well, now basically every NBA team is all over the world, and they're all there. That's the biggest thing, and I think that happened when they start to realize in the NBA the quality of the international players, as long as you don't try to make them American players. I think there was the biggest change in signing, recruiting, and scouting international players. Probably started somewhere with Petrovic, who played for Portland, and they want him to play more as like an American player. And then he went to New Jersey, and they said, well, this guy has some really talented. Maybe it's not what we're looking for, but let him do his shit. And that worked out really well, and he became, one of the leading scorers in the league by playing European basketball. And I think there was a break for international basketball. Other GMs, other scouts, other director play personnel and coaches start to realize, wait a minute, we cannot always ask from those players to be athletic and change their game while they have something extra, like great outside shooting or passing or something different, what really helped. It's hard to find a player like Nowitzki somewhere in the United States. You don't have that type of players. It's very rare. Also in Europe. But if you have one, don't try him to make something different. Let him do what he does. He has a game who I cannot compare with anybody in the league.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest change in international scouting, international basketball. The recognition of the style of basketball, of international players and international basketball.
There's been a few guys over the last few years that are very high-profile players that have not succeeded. For example, Andrea Bargnani, Darko Milicic, Skidashvili, top picks that really don't look good for their teams right now. So far, things can still change. Do you think that's going to change something in the way that teams look at European players?
Well, I don't want to comment if they are bad picks or not. I mean, that's up to others to do that, and the teams, and everybody can think different about it. You know, what is a successful play? Some of them still have success, maybe one more than the other. And of course, but it's not only international in scouting. It's an opinion. It's not subject. It's subjective. It's not objective, and it's an opinion of someone. And for all kind of circumstances, also with American players, there's more American bad draft picks, #1 recently and over the history, and you can name guys and like you're astonished, like, oh shit, he was that bad. Yeah, he was a #1 pick, and where is he now? Nowhere. So I don't think it has anything to do with international or with, and I don't even think it has to do with the potential of the players. It has to do with circumstances. You know, you think you take a player, you get injured, or you take a player who doesn't fit into, you know, the mold of the team. Or the coach doesn't like him at a certain point, or the guy, his wife gets pregnant and he starts to change his mentality. And I mean, there's so many things, you know, it's not a science.
Right, exactly. Moving forward here over the next few years, how do you think teams can do a better job of scouting international and NCAA players? How can they improve?
I don't know if there's a lot of improvement. You know, you want to see as many players, you want to compare with each other. I think there's more tools available, the whole video editing. Some companies now who have video editing for sale. You know, all those things will make it that you can get more out of a player, get to know more about players than in the past. It's not a real secret that for international players, they were more like a hidden gem than players in the United States. Like if you play in the ACC, you're on television like every week, and if you're very good, everybody knows you're very good. But as soon as they find things in your game, they would say, "Wow, you know, this is not like what we're looking for." You cannot hide it. International is still possible to hide certain things. You know, it's not like everybody is on television. You cannot get every tape of every game. You cannot see them all the time. The newspapers, the media is not like constant talking about them. So I think it's a big difference.
What are your plans here until the draft? Any more international basketball to watch until you guys get together?
Well, there's a very good tournament in Spain next week, the under-20 finals. I might be there, and then, you know, after that we have to straight go to the United States and sit down for the draft, preparing, and hopefully we get a couple of very good picks with New Jersey. You know, I'm very confident that we will do that.
Are you guys going to be looking for a specific type of player, a position, or some guy that fits Lawrence Frank's mentality about, you know, or are you guys going to be looking for the best overall player on the board at that time?
We haven't talked about it yet. That's why we come together. I think it's very important what the coach thinks about it, because he has to work with the guys. And Lawrence is really involved with the whole process, well, it's really good for a team and for a coach also. So he knows what kind of guys he gets into, and he has his input in there. So we have to listen to him, but he is part of the whole staff making a decision on what we're going to do. You know, we're fortunate, I think, with having a 10th pick and the 21st pick and a 40th pick. So altogether, you know, I think we can get a really good draft this year, and especially because the draft in general is pretty deep.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of good players available on 10 and 21. Actually, there may be too many good players, so that makes the job a lot tougher.
Right. Rob, I want to thank you so much for your time. They're shutting the lights down on us. It's time to go home. Exactly. So we'll catch up soon. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.